Let me know if you can't hear me. Thank you. There were supposed to be 4 of us, but there were actually 11. When my translator asked if the aunts and cousins could come with us, what was I going to say? No? Sure! The more the merrier. And I secretly thank God that I had brought more money than I had planned to. And so there we were in the Pollo Campero, a chicken restaurant in El Salvador and throughout Latin America that is so popular that the U.S. has imposed customs restrictions on bringing it across the border. With my sponsored child, her mother, sisters, aunt, cousins, school teacher, school principal, and my translator. And I'm starting to notice that I'm the only person who's eaten most of my food. They ask for boxes. They fill them with chicken bones, including the ones from my plate. The ketchup and hot sauce packets are taken from the plastic containers on the table. People keep drinking and refilling their cups until the pitchers full of liquid are empty. We have to keep asking for more takeout boxes. And I turn to my translator, and she tells me that this is normal. They do not get to eat like this often, and so when they do, they take it all, because who knows when something like this will happen again. When I was first asked to give this message, I was asked to talk about healthy eating. My response was, really? I made a cake that was covered in 2 bags of Reese's cups. That would make me a hypocrite. Even when I was assured that I could talk about food in any way I wanted, I still wasn't quite sure what I was going to say. But it being November has worked out. Sure, there's Thanksgiving, a holiday as synonymous with gluttony as thankfulness, but we've also just been through Consecration Sunday. We've talked about being a steward of money and time, but I want to think about what it means to be a steward of our eating and of our food. And the easiest way for me to do that is to tell you what I've seen. I'd never experienced culture shock until we came back from Ethiopia. I had an emotional breakdown in our grocery store. We had been gone for over 2 weeks, and only 2 of those days out of that week were in Ethiopia. We were restocking our fridge, and I was in near tears in the checkout line. I just kept saying, it's too much. It's too much. I remember the overwhelming feeling of guilt as the register checked us out at over $100. I could only think of Bezwayu, her mother, and her 2 sisters living in a mud hut the size of our bathroom, New York bathroom, apologizing over and over that all they could offer us was tea. I still feel my chest pull tight when I think about that. She's apologizing to me? Me? I live in a country that throws away 30 million tons of food a year, a third of all food purchased in the US, while 3 billion people live on $2 a day. 27 to 28% of children in the world are underweight or malnourished. There are 15,000 children bonded into slavery to help us have chocolate. The people who farm the beans for our Starbucks coffee, though they do fair trade now, are paid 50 cents for every 2.2 pounds of coffee that they pick, and sometimes they are even cheated out of that. There are people who are nearly enslaved in our own backyard. Haitian workers in Florida were promised high wages to pick beans and peas. When they arrived, their passports and visas were taken, they were denied medical support, they were raped, beaten, and not fed. And she apologized to me. I'd be lying to you right now if I told you that I wasn't somewhat apathetic to the problem. It's easier to go down the block and just pick up the fruit off the shelf without knowing where it's come from or who picked it. Do you know how much the Whole Food charges for fruit? I'm sure you do. And when I buy vegetables, thinking that I'm going to be healthy, I hem and haw until they get moldy. And the only place they go is in the trash can. What a waste. I would rather spend my money on myself than to give it to help others eat or live. I guess even now it's hypocritical for me to sit here and talk to you about food. But maybe this is what I needed, or all of us needed, to take a moment and just think about our brothers and sisters throughout the world, even here, who are hurting because of my laziness or my tight-fistedness. So what does it mean to be faithful when dealing with our food? I could tell you not to purchase genetically modified foods or only buy local, organic, fair trade. But I think the best thing to do is to ask yourself, when looking at your food choices, how does this affect the least of these? Think through these choices and think about the people who your purchases affect. But I'm not going to lie. Sometimes it's expensive. Sometimes you are in a place that has fair trade or items that you believe are ethically sourced. Or maybe you want the items that you always buy. I know sometimes I do. But you want to know that they're taking care of the least of our brothers and sisters. We should and must hold all companies to a higher ethical standard. Sign a petition. Send an email to a company explaining why you want wages raised and slavery ended. Join a protest. Boycott a company, or heck, if you're adventurous, start your own. Donate to places that help feed those who are hungry, or help those overseas escape poverty by donating money to purchase an animal that can provide food for them and for the market. ELCA good gifts, a good time to bring it up? Our stewardship is our money, but it's also our time, the way we live our lives, and where we place our hearts. All of these things should point to Christ and the love of God, both for ourselves and for our neighbors. So let's think of it often, both in church and in the checkout line. Amen.